Now, we've had folks that would say, well, yeah, that sounds pretty good, but how do you know that what the disciples saw has come down to us accurately? In other words, two things. Some will say, you know, all right, you've got 7 eyewitnesses, you've got people that said they saw things and heard Jesus say things. They wrote it down, but don't we have a lot of errors in the text, and weren't these things written down hundreds of years later? What do you say to that?
Well, in the case of the New Testament documents, we have writings of antiquity which were copied and recopied across the centuries, up to the time of the invention of printing in the West in the 15th century. And there is a science known as textual criticism which examines the documents to see whether they have been altered through the copying and recopying, and which corrects the documents on the basis of better texts. This is a highly technical field, and the results of it are what interest us, not the means by which those results are obtained. We couldn't go into that. But the results of textual criticism applied to the New Testament documents is very simple. The New Testament documents are the best attested documents of the ancient world. That is to say, there has been the least difficulty in getting back to the original content of those documents as compared with any of the documents of classical antiquity. I'll give you a few examples here. I majored in classics as an undergraduate at Cornell University, and I spent an entire semester on the Roman poet Catullus. He wrote love poems. It was a delightful semester. And no one mentioned in the course of that series of sessions on Catullus, that all of the poems of Catullus that we have come from one manuscript which was discovered during the Italian Renaissance and has since been lost. In other words, the earliest manuscript of the complete poems of Catullus was 1,000 years after the writing of those poems themselves. This is, in general, the situation as to the documents of classical antiquity. In contrast with this, we have the New Testament documents. We have complete texts of the Gospels going back within 300 years of the original writings. 300 years. And the 300 years is bridged by quotations, fragments, lectionary readings that take us right back on top of the original writings. We even have a fragment of the Gospel of John that is dated at 100. In other words, within 5 years of the writing of the Gospel itself. Classical textual critics would sell their grandmothers for that kind of evidence in regard to writers such as Catullus. Now, the conclusion that we have to arrive at in this is that if you want to throw out the New Testament documents on the basis of some textual argument, you must first dump your entire knowledge of Greco-Roman history, because our knowledge of Greece and Rome depend upon documentary evidence less adequate than the documentary evidence